Well, hey, everybody, what's going on? Happy Easter, everybody. Why are you always laughing at me?
It was funny. That well, hey, sounded funny, man. It was funny. I laughed at it.
Okay, everything I do is hilarious.
No, it wasn't hilarious. It's just funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. Now I'm like all fucking paranoid about this shit. Yeah, it is Easter today.
Yeah.
And we celebrated by having a Thanksgiving dinner for lunch.
It wasn't the full boat Thanksgiving. It was just turkey with dressing, gravy, cranberry sauce, homemade cranberry
Which
sauce.
Which is, all the main
and
components of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't have the cream-style corn, didn't have the pecan pie, didn't have the...
No pumpkin stuff.
No pumpkin stuff. No, what else is... Oh, no rolls, no dinner rolls.
Yeah.
It was just...
But still, it was all the main stuff.
Yeah.
All the main
stuff.
The
main stuff. Didn't have the damn green bean casserole with the damn onions on top of it.
That's okay. I don't like that shit.
I love that shit.
I know that's a very controversial opinion to have in the United States, not having that. Yeah. I don't hate it. It's just I don't really. It's not really. I don't usually eat it.
Yeah.
Like
Thanksgiving with Mexicans involves tamales.
Well, that's okay.
That'd be good too. And the Italians are eating whole lasagnas. Thanksgiving. It's probably turkey and lasagna, I guess.
Sure, why not? Or to turkey in the lasagna.
Yeah.
I mean, that could probably work too. Turkey lasagna. That sounds good.
Put some tamales inside the turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be like a turducken, except with tamales and lasagna.
Yeah.
A tamale turkey lasagna.
Got tamales for fucking Christmas and tamales for...
Well, tamales are good.
For Thanksgiving.
What do you want me to do about it?
Yeah, it's Mexican-American Thanksgiving.
All right, so as promised, we received the Blu-ray in the mail yesterday of Fargo from Xánada. So thank you very much, Xánada, for sending that.
Xánada's my boy. I talk to him online all the time.
As I said,
lives out in the desert. I help him with his AR-15 builds and his fucking his desert survival loadout. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he sent me a message and said, if I send you Fargo, will you make Tom watch it?
Yeah, I watched it. I had seen parts of it, but I had never seen the whole thing. I didn't know I didn't know it was Fargo that I was seeing.
Because I feel like
a couple scenes out of it.
You've seen, because you haven't seen a lot of Coen Brothers films. I haven't seen all of them. I've seen most of them. But you really, really like The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
And now, see, I love Raising Arizona. You did not like Raising Arizona all that much. But... Oh, maybe we should do Barton Fink one of these days. That's a fucking weird-ass movie. That was the one that they did... Actually, it wasn't the one before Fargo. It was the one prior to the one before that. Because the one they did before Fargo was the Hudsucker Proxy, which I remember seeing, and that was one with Tim Robbins. And I remember really liking it, but I don't really remember much about it. I think I saw that in the theater. But it's interesting because Fargo, this came out in 1996. I think I saw this in the theater as well, now that I'm thinking about it. And what had happened was that you have to think the Coen Brothers, I mean, they're very famous nowadays, obviously. But back in the 90s, they were still kind of considered sort of like indie or like cult filmmakers. You know what I mean? They did everything like independently, like outside of the Hollywood system. So they had made, I believe, 5 movies at this point. They had made Blood Simple, which I reviewed not too long ago. And actually, Blood Simple is kind of similar thematically to Fargo, which I'll get into in a bit. And they had made a couple other ones. Like I said, they made Barton Fink. They made Raising Arizona. They made the Hudsucker Proxy, which was actually kind of supposed to be their big budget, whatever. I think it was like $27 million, which was a lot of money for them. But it completely tanked. And so after that, I guess they decided to go back to their roots. And I think I heard that they went back to the producers after the Hudsucker Proxy did horribly, like at the box office. I think it only made like 1/10 of its budget back. And they showed the producers the script for Fargo, which they'd been working on for a couple years. I was like, I don't think you should make this one next. This is the weirdest fucking shit I've ever read. But as it turned out, they were given the opportunity to make Fargo for, only $7 million. And it was a massive, massive success. Not only critically, but also audience. And it was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture. It didn't win, but Frances McDormand won Best Actress. And it also won Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah, it's a trippy flick. It's a true crime drama.
I fucking love this movie.
But it's
I
also
really do.
Kind of like a comedy and kind of, but
it's a dark comedy.
Yeah, but it's also kind of realistic. And having lived in Michigan, this is taking place, I think, in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
But it's Midwest, and the culture Yeah, that's the way.
Well, the Coen Brothers are from Minnesota.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're kind of
Michigan's-
affectionately satirizing the
Yeah,
culture
yeah.
they grew up in.
Parts of Michigan are kind of like that, and the accents and everything aren't quite that bad in Michigan, but some people have them. It's funny because, like, when Sophie comes to visit, you know what I mean? And that every now and then that accent comes out of her.
Yeah.
And it brings me back to living in Michigan. I forgot how funny people sound. It's for the people that don't live in the United States, the Midwest,
Upper Midwest.
it's a different ethnic makeup, say, versus the South or Northeast or Southwest, or they're more kind of Scandinavian.
Yeah.
You got a lot of Swedish people of Swedish descent. They think there may have been Vikings there at one point in the past, but I don't know. They found some stones and shit. It's difficult to say. They thought that maybe some Vikings made it to the Great Lakes back in ancient times, but they're kind of Nordic, like Scandinavian, mixed with Slavic people and Hungarian people, but mostly Swedish types and Slavic people. That's really the main ethnic group there, and they're tall. And you can go back and look at when Sophie was on the guest on a show. You can see what they look like. They just look like something out of Sweden, kind of tall, blonde, but they had that funny accent, and it does sound like a mutated Swedish accent.
It does a bit. It's kind of like musical sounding.
Yeah.
And you don't get really a lot of movies made about this particular area of the United States, which I think was something that a lot of people really responded to.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, critically, this was, an almost universally beloved movie. I feel like the people that didn't like it, their main criticism was they thought that the Coen brothers were making fun of the characters or making fun of, like, people from the upper Midwest. And I'm like, I didn't really get that impression.
I understand it because Southerners think the same thing when they portray Southerners. You know what I mean? Sometimes it comes off as they're making fun of the South. So they thought that they were making fun of it. But the thing is that in the stereotypes, there's a lot of truth in the stereotypes. There's a lot of truth in the stereotypes about the South. There's a lot of truth in the stereotypes of what they were talking about in this movie from Minnesota and the Midwest. Yeah, they kind of show the people and the culture kind of accurately.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not bad.
It's slightly exaggerated for the movie, like for
it's comedy.
Slightly comedic effect.
Yeah.
But not really all that much, I don't feel like.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that, the Frances McDormand's character, Marge Gunderson, I don't know where you would get off that they think they was making fun of her. She is clearly the hero of the piece. I mean, she is the movie's moral center, and she's a delightful, delightful character.
What makes the hero so cool, and it seems this isn't like something that nowadays, Hollywood, a lot of the shit's made like by a committee, and you got certain demographics, be it male, female, or white, black, or whatever. They're shoehorned into these roles, and it seems kind of inorganic. This seems very organic. The hero of the movie is a cop she's kind of she's a pregnant female cop. And on the surface, she comes across as kind of mediocre, but she does a hell of a job and does some brave shit when you really.
And she's like a deeply good person.
Yeah, she's a good person. Yeah.
And I think that's why people really responded to her character in such a way, because she's just so endearing.
Yeah, and she's like a very average police investigator, average cop from that culture and that time back in the 90s. So she's very kind of average, but you see how competent average was. She was good.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
She's kind of like, she's sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
But you'd be forgiven for thinking that maybe she wasn't because of the way, like, culturally she comes across.
Yeah, she comes across as kind of like foppish in a certain way, and just go, oh well, like she's not taking it seriously. Like she's somebody's mom, not really taking it seriously. No, she gets the job done.
Yeah, and I think that's the coolest thing about her character, is that overtly, like, on the surface, she doesn't seem like an overtly heroic character, but she absolutely is a hero. She's like the hero
Confronts
of the
the bad
movie.
guy on her own and everything.
Yeah, and she's like not afraid of them
Yeah.
or anything like that. And I thought that was like,
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done. But it's very, very low key. I like the way that
And
came
the dude
across.
that she ends up arresting is a fucking psycho.
Yeah.
He's a fucking nut. All right, and she arrests him, and it's not something like out of Sucker Punch where she's in a miniskirt fucking killing millions of fucking World War I Nazis like they had Nazis in World War I. It's not like that. It's not superhero shit. It's just like, yeah, that's how it would have went down.
Well,
she's.
I think the reason, like I said, I think the reason a lot of people responded to her character in such a positive way is because she's just like an ordinary person.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But, you know, she's a deeply good person. She's a deeply moral person. And she steps up to the plate. When shit has to get done, she does it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Stop the bad guys.
Right. And it's because, honestly, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is after, you know, spoiler alert, obviously, from a movie that's, you know, that this old at this point. But after she catches Peter Stormare's character, you know, at the end, when he's putting Steve Buscemi into the wood chipper, and she, you know, shoots him in the leg and takes him alive and everything like that. It's like the little kind of speech she gives him in the police car when he's in the back. I love that she's like she's not really like yelling at him, or she's not like overly emotional or anything. She's just very disappointed.
Yeah.
She's just very disappointed, and it's like, you know, all these people are dead, and all these like, and for what? A little bit of money.
Yeah.
And that's what she said.
She's
and
trying
it's
to reason with him. Why
Right.
did you do it? Why? Just for some money.
Just for some money.
Yeah.
She's like, you know,
all those
there's
people.
there's more to life than a little bit of money. Don't you know that?
Yeah.
You know, she's just very, very disappointed.
Yeah.
And I like the fact, I think she plays, and, you know, her Best Actress Oscar was well-deserved, I think, because she finds, like, a really good balance between being, I don't want to say naive. I don't think she's naive necessarily, because, I mean, she's a cop, but she's kind of in this small town, and it seems like she probably doesn't deal with this kind of thing a lot, but she's aware that there's evil in the world, you know, so it's not shocking to her, I guess, but she still has the capacity to be like disappointed by it and be like, hope that people would do better. And I think that she really kind of like struck a good balance of that. And like I said, I think that's why a lot of people responded positively to her character, because she's just such a nice person, like a genuinely nice person. She's just, and I love like the interactions with her and her husband, Norm, like, who's played by John Carroll Lynch. I forgot that he was in this because it's been a while since I've seen it. But they're just so regular. Yeah. And it's like they're not super, like, effusive. They're not super emotional, which, like I said, that's another thing that's very characteristic of the Upper Midwest. They're very overtly nice and stuff like that, but they're very kind of emotionally distant, I want to say, or they're not like reserved. Overly, yeah, they're very reserved. That was the word that I was looking for. Yeah. Like I said, I've never been to the Midwest personally, but a lot of my knowledge of the Midwest comes from Mystery Science Theater, because a lot of them are from Minnesota, and they kind of like make fun of that the same way that Joel and Ethan Coen do.
I was talking about it with Sophie the other day. I was thinking maybe me and you ought to go up there and go clubbing with Sophie, and we'll swing by and visit Steve and Grandpa's Hammer.
Yeah.
You got to do that sometime. You've never seen it. But the thing is that I would not go up there in the winter.
Well, yeah.
You want to go up there during the summer.
Yeah.
Winter's a pain in the ass. Just getting around is a fucking pain in the ass.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like 30 below zero or something.
Well, yeah, and
like
just all the fucking snow and all roads are salted and shit.
Yeah.
It's just not pleasant.
And ironically, when they were filming this movie, they're like, well, normally, because like I said, the Coens, they don't live there anymore, but they grew up in Minnesota. So they're like, we wanted it to look like this whited out hellscape where there's like nothing around, and where the, you know, setting became like its own character. And they're like, the year that we were shooting it was like the warmest winter on record for like, or the second warmest winter for like 100 years or something like that. And it's like there wasn't enough snow like what we wanted, so they had to truck in like fake snow, and then they had to shoot it. They had to go like all over North Dakota, because somebody was saying, yeah, Fargo is in North Dakota. And that's the thing. They asked them why. They're like, okay, well, why is the movie called Fargo? Because literally only I think the first scene where William H. Macy's character, Jerry, is setting up the whole kidnapping plot, like with the two lowlifes. That's the only scene that happens in Fargo, North Dakota. The rest of it happens in Brainerd, Minnesota. Yeah. But so they asked the Coens about that, and they said, well, Fargo sounds like a better title than Brainerd, doesn't it? Yeah. And that was basically the only reason that they gave, which I thought was like pretty funny.
Saying something up there.
The two bimbos with poofy hair who bang Steve Buscemi.
Yeah,
Oops. Yeah. Thank you, Xánada.
Yeah.
Whoops, it kind of went. It's not letting me scroll up. Remind me of poofy-haired bimbos I would pick up at Michigan bars back in my pipe laying days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what...
We went to school with a lot of them girls.
Well, it's like... And I remember, like, seeing a couple of... they kind of reminded me of that chick from... Remember that Kitchen Nightmares that they did? That was in Minnesota? I think it was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the women that worked in the restaurant, the waitresses, like, was kind of like that. That's what it reminded me. But yeah, those two were fucking hilarious. They were only in one scene. They were like, they were call girls. Yeah. And, Marge is interviewing them, and she's like, well, I was banging the little one. He was kind of funny looking. Yeah. And he's like, well, can you be more specific? Well, what do you mean funny looking? I don't know, just funny looking.
Yeah. And then, sure
like,
I'd go as far as call them call girls. They were probably just more like hoes.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I also
they were rough. They were
pretty rough.
What the deal was is that was a pretty accurate portrayal of just like the baseline average once you get out of the bigger cities in say like around in the Michigan areas, up in the Midwest, kind of like what you would call hillbillies. Yes, they're just kind of like that. They're almost kind of like Canadians or something. But
it is very close to the Canadian border.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but like real country, northern country, and it has its own thing because there's kind of an industrial touch to it because they were doing heavy industry up there. That area was kind of like America's version of Siberia with fucking Tankograd and all the fucking where all the Russian factories were. We had the same thing here. The steel industry was there, making cars, and then the things that we went into cars, and I think there was a bunch of coal and mining going on, and they're country, but they're industrial workers, not so much farmers. They had them, but industry is where it was.
But I was going to say that I also think it's funny that, when she was talking about Steve Buscemi being funny looking, and I like that they called that back later on, like with that random witness who was saying that he saw a funny looking little guy. And the other cop is asking that guy too. He's like, well, what do you mean funny looking? Just funny looking in a general way. Yeah. Like nobody could specify how he was funny looking. And they kept asking him to be more specific and they couldn't. Yeah. Ben asked, I wanted to talk about this actually. Have you seen Kumiko the Treasure Hunter? I haven't, but I've heard about it. A very sad Japanese film about a young woman obsessed with Fargo, so she steals her boss's credit card and travels there because she thinks she knows where the bag of cash is in real life. Yeah, that's okay. So at the beginning, you could be forgiven for thinking that this story for this movie was based on a true story. It's not exactly. But they thought it would be funny to put a thing at the beginning saying this is based on a true story, like everything is as accurate as possible, blah, blah, blah. And they've kind of gone back and forth over the years over whether it's actually based on a true. So there were a couple of crimes. There was one, I think, that maybe happened in Connecticut or something like that, like in the 60s, where a guy did pay to have his wife killed and they did put her in a wood chipper, shit like that. Damn. But there was nothing like this that happened in Minnesota in 1987, like it says. So they kind of just made it up. Now, one thing that happened, and this kind of turned into an urban legend. Now, this is true. There was a young Japanese woman who came to Minneapolis from Tokyo, I believe, and they found her dead out in the wilds in Minnesota. And because of something that she had said to someone, like a cop or something like that, and she didn't speak a lot of English, somebody thought that she believed that the movie Fargo was true, and so that consequently, there's a part in the film where Steve Buscemi's character buries a suitcase with almost $1 million in it, out in the snow. And so the urban legend arose that she had actually come here looking for that money because she thought that it was a true story, and then she died while she was looking for the money. That is actually not true. She did come here and she did die, but they discovered that she had probably just committed suicide. She actually sent a suicide note, and it didn't have anything to do with Fargo. But there was kind of an urban legend about that she thought the movie was true, that she found it. But yeah, they made a whole movie about it called Kumiko the Treasure Hunter.
It's funny that you're talking about Steve Buscemi being funny looking. Hey, Gramthers will remember what I'm talking about. My other best friend was a dude named Mike Kowalski. And when I wasn't hanging out with Steve, I was hanging out with Mike. Mike was a spitting image of a young fucking Steve Buscemi. Looked just like that. And what's funny is when he grew up, he got big, though. He fucking motherfucker turned into a damn hunk. He looked like fucking Anthony Michael Hall did out of the fucking, Dead Zone series. That's what he looked like when he grew up. Ran his own crime investigation team. Forensics cleanup, what he did.
But yeah, so if I didn't say, thank you very much, Xánada, for sending us the movie and also the super chat. We are very passive aggressive in the Midwest. Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Because you all want to be polite at all times, but you're kind of like hiding the seething resentment underneath. Yeah, I've heard that. Thanks for reviewing this one. Hopefully Tom didn't hate it. It's the only movie about my home state.
Oh no, I liked it.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Yeah, I liked it. It's cool.
I thought you might. To me, this seems like a combination. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is a little glib to say this, but this almost seems like a combination of Blood Simple, which is their first movie, and Raising Arizona. Because like Raising Arizona, you have like the kind of black comedy, you have the kidnapping scheme that goes horribly awry, and like all these weird characters, and it's very like regional. But then Blood Simple is kind of like a noir, so it's sort of like a combination of those two things, but like in the best possible way. Granther said, yeah, come up to God's country, no salt, no sharks, no problems. Then Xana said the accent is like Nordic or Canadian. Yeah. Ben said, for a long time, I thought the Dakotas were just north of Florida for some reason.
No.
Oh, hell no. They're way far away.
That's the Virginias that's north of Florida.
Well, what's just north of Florida is Georgia.
Yeah. And then Virginia, yeah.
And then the Virginia. And then, the Carolinas.
Well, there's
and
two
then,
Virginias.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Virginia, and then there's West Virginia,
Yeah.
which is pretty small.
That's what I meant, but he's talking about the Dakotas.
Yeah, the Dakotas are way over in the Midwest. Oracle says it's definitely grounded in reality, though, the Minnesota nice reality.
Yeah.
I think that's what always... Like I said, I kind of feel like this is maybe the only movie that explores this area. It's a very unexplored area of the United States, like at least in moviedom.
It's mostly boring.
Well, yeah, and I think that's why. But I still think it's like a fascinating culture to explore because, like I said, I think it was genius to kind of counterpose this sort of like overtly, like very emotionally reserved and very overtly polite, the whole quote unquote Minnesota nice thing against this horrific true crime kidnapping scheme that goes horribly in law. Like all these people end up brutally murdered and stuff like that. I think that was like a genius move. And I can see how, because the humor in this, it's very dark humor. It's very deadpan, which a lot of their movies are. So I can kind of see how, because I think this movie is hilarious, but I can see how like some people might not. And it's not just because of their accents either. It's just like the whole situation of it is just absurd to me. Like I said, the juxtaposition of this type of culture, this type of personality, and like the situation that unfolds is just like really funny to me.
It's the pacing of the story and the pacing of what happens in it. But it's true to the Midwest, especially wintertime. The pace in winter in say Michigan or the Midwest is slow. Everything slows down because transportation is difficult. And it seems like for the whole winter it kind of doesn't shut down, but it slows a lot. You know what I mean? And this is what it would be like investigating a crime in that. And it kind of becomes depressing. It's dark a lot. And for some reason, every time I go back to Michigan, because I went back several times after I left to visit Steve, I keep hearing Bob Seger in my head. It's just, there's something about fucking Bob. If you listen to Bob Seger depressing as shit, you just want him to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? And that's kind of fucking the way Michigan in the winter fucking feels like a Bob Seger song. You know, on the road again, turn the page. Man, shut the fuck up. Yeah, he's crying over shit. It's like that.
Grabther says, I cringe whenever I see the scene where Steve Buscemi gets shot in the jaw and goes around patching it with napkins. That injury would fucking hurt. Yeah, actually, I had forgotten about that scene, and so like when it happened, I was like, "Oh shit!" It's like just grazed his fucking face, and they did a good job like doing the
fucking. I don't know if Granther's seen any facial fucking gunshots or seen videos of people who've been shot in the face. It's a fucking painful wound because it's just a bunch of bone and nasal cavity and a lot of nerve endings and fucking teeth and your tongue's in there, and it's not a vital area. People, when somebody's shooting at somebody else, they tend to aim for the eyes, and the brain is not at the eyes. It's quite above it. A lot of times the round lands in the face, and it just busts the dudes up, and it doesn't kill them. They walk around just like that. Going, oh. Imagine you had a toothache, just like a million times. Flaps, depending on what caliber it was. Teeth fucking busted out, Yeah. You don't really want to get shot anywhere, but you definitely don't want to get shot in the face.
Yeah, and Ben says it bleeds like crazy too.
Yeah, it bleeds like fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
anything that's like face or head wounds like bleed a
It's
lot.
all those blood vessels and all those nerve endings up in there.
Yeah, and it's like even if it's
Your
like not
sinuses and shit.
right, it's like an alarming amount of blood. Like even if the injury's not that bad, it's an alarming amount of blood. But yeah, I was gonna say. Oh, I wanted to say too that Peter Stormare, who is the actor that played the other hitman, Geir was his name, right? The big hulking mute guy. He's actually Swedish, and he said that when he was in Minnesota, like shooting the movie, like he went to all these places because there's a place in Minnesota called Stockholm, and there's all these, and he wanted to go on, and he said that Minnesota is like more Sweden than Sweden. That's more Swedish than Sweden is. But he thought it was like really cool that like he went around and everyone was like super Swedish.
Well, we've touched on this subject many times here in the show, and I've had girls from who came from Israel living in Greece saying, man, I had no idea that America was so diverse, because a lot of foreigners just think it's all the same thing. No, the place is fucking huge, and it's more like 4 or 5 big regions all shoved together trying to make peace with each other, but the Northeast is like Sweden, or mixed with like some Slavic area like Poland mixed in there, because Mike was of Polish descent, and when you're talking in the South, it's kind of more like Irish and Germans. That's the base. Irish, Germans, and French. A little bit of Spanish. But then you had people who are direct Spanish descendants. Florida used to be part of Spain. Louisiana was owned by France for a long time, but it was also owned by Spain before then. So each region has its own history, its own blend of people. They all just kind of marry together. You just become your own kind of ethnic group. But they move around a lot, especially recently. Everybody's moving. Like Florida, a lot of people that are here now are not from here. I'm not from here. I'm from, basically, my family's southern, Mississippi and Virginia. But I'm sure I had ancestors in Florida too, though.
Well, it's been like that forever, because I remember when I was growing up, I was one of the only people I knew that was actually born in Florida. I mean, I know a lot of people were, but I didn't really know that many people that were born in Florida. Everybody moved here from somewhere else.
What I'm seeing now, go down to the fucking biker bar, dudes from New York. They're not from New York City, they're from New York State. They moved here. They just running from New York.
Well, like I said, I knew a lot of people from New York when I was a kid. I've always known people from, and mostly from New York State or Ohio. I know a lot of people that moved here from Ohio, places like that, Illinois, stuff like that. Xánada said Minnesota nice is definitely real. Yeah, like I've heard, and he also said nobody wants to be confrontational in that culture. Tom would hate it. Yeah, like I said, it's very, very passive aggressive because everybody just has to maintain like politeness at all times. Granther says the wood chipper scene is classic. Yeah, and I kind of feel like that was the one that everybody kind of referred to. I love that Marge like peeks around the tree and sees what's happening. She's like the leg like sticking out of the wood chipper and him like trying to cram it in with the log or whatever. And she's just like shocked for a second, but then she immediately like regains her aplomb and she's just kind of like and then she just like fucking shoots him in the leg when he starts running away. And then later on she just very casually just says, oh, and I guess that was your partner in the wood chipper there. You know what I mean? Like it was the most normal thing in the world. Let's see. Wait. Ben says, was A Simple Plan a remake of Fargo? Never saw it, but it looked pretty similar. No, A Simple Plan was actually quite different, and it was actually based on a novel by Scott Smith. And I've actually reviewed both, like over on my Flickers of Fear and my other series. I did a review of the book by Scott Smith, which is excellent, and the movie, which I think came out in 1993, that had Billy Bob Thornton and them in it. And the movie is also really good, and it's like a really close adaptation. But it's kind of similar in the sense that it's not a kidnapping though. It's like it's 2 guys and they find or 3 guys and they find like a crashed plane that has like a bunch of money in it, and then they have like this scheme where they're going to keep the money and like don't, and then like obviously everything horribly goes wrong. But it's kind of like a similar kind of thing in that regard, where it's like a crime that keeps like escalating and escalating, but it's a completely different story. It doesn't have anything to do with a kidnapping. Somebody asked, let me see, Oracle asked, what is everybody's theories about why Jerry needed the money? I thought, and maybe I'm totally wrong about this, but you remember there's a scene in the movie where Jerry gets this phone call, and I think he gets another phone call like later on in the movie, but he gets a phone call from someone who's asking him about, it's like, yo, what are all these serial numbers for all these cars that he supposedly sold, and he got like all this money for them, and you're led to believe that these cars don't exist, and he was just like making up the serial numbers like to get the money from these fictitious sales. And I thought that he had done that, and then like he got like this scheme was getting found out, so he's like, well, I need the money to, because I thought he'd been embezzling from the company, which the company was owned by his father-in-law, in case that wasn't clear. So I guess he was kind of like embezzling money from his father-in-law and needed to put it back before he got caught. I thought that's what it was, but maybe not. Maybe that's kind of, maybe I was misreading
Because the ransom was only, the ransom was $1 million, right?
Well, yeah, initially what he said that he was going to, because he only told the lowlifes, like the criminals, he told them 80,000 and that he was going to split it 50-50 with them. Right. But then he told the dad, he told Wade that it was $1 million. So then he was going to keep the leftover,
and then pay what he owed,
and then pay them what he owed. But he told them that it was an $80,000, but he was actually asking for $1 million from the dad.
What he owed with their money,
right? That's what he was saying. Yeah. So also William H. Macy, I think he had been in stuff before this, but I'm pretty sure this was like his kind of breakout role. And I was watching. There's a documentary called Minnesota Nice, which is about the making of this movie, and it's about half hour long. It's good, and William H. Macy wanted this part so bad. They said he actually came in and read for a smaller part, like the part of like the state trooper who's only in like 1 or 2 scenes. And he came in to read for that, and he said one of the Coens asked him, it's like, oh, do you want to read for Jerry, like the main part? And he's like, hell yeah, I would like to do that. And so he read for it. They asked him to come back the next day, and he came back and read the next day. And then he said he wanted that part so bad, he said, I was born to play this part. And so when he heard that they had gone back to New York and were doing more casting there, he actually used his own money to fly out to New York to basically get in their faces and go, I'm going to have this part, like, let me read for you again. So they let him do it. But I think the coolest thing about his character is that Jerry's character, he's a terrible, terrible person. But the way that I think the thing that makes his character so great is he's almost like, you almost kind of feel sorry for him because he seems like such a schlub, and he seems like he has that whole Minnesota Nice thing going on, like he's always just unfailingly polite, unfailingly deferential, but he's just setting up this horror. It's almost like a banality of evil thing, where it's just kind of like you can't believe that a dude who seems this nice would do these like just atrocious, monstrous. I mean, he's basically, his wife had nothing to do with anything. She didn't do anything to anybody. And he's basically like, yeah, I'm just going to have her kidnapped and like get all this money. And she
ended up killing her.
Yeah, and she just ends up being, ends up getting killed, and a bunch of other innocent people end up getting killed. And, and he doesn't even really seem all that bothered. All he's worried about is just getting that money because he's just so desperate.
If somebody asked, what do you think he originally embezzled for? It was unclear, I guess, huh?
Well, that's what we were just talking about. Yeah. I said about the whole thing where the guy on the phone was like asking him for the serial numbers. Yeah. I assumed that he had an embezzling scheme going where he was doing fictitious car sales.
Yeah, but what was he doing with the money?
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, why was he embezzling?
I mean, they did ask the Coen Brothers about that, and they said, well, they just wanted to leave it vague. Like, he just needs the money, like he's in debt somehow. Yeah. You know what I mean? They just kind of left it vague.
Yeah.
Because he obviously
he already had his own house, so he didn't need the money. He didn't seem to be running from the wife. Maybe he was going to divorce the wife and run from the wife and take the money with him.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, because the thing about it is that the father-in-law was really rich. And so I'm assuming there's one just kind of offhand line in there where, he's where Jerry's trying to convince the father-in-law to get in on this, investment deal that he's going to do, which is, what he was going to do before he decided to desperately do the kidnapping thing. Yeah. And so the dad doesn't want to do it. And then the dad says something to the effect of, it's like, well, Gene and Scotty, who's the son, they never have to worry because they're always going to be taken care of because the dad is rich and he'll take care of him, but he doesn't give a shit about Jerry. Yeah. I mean, you kind of, like I said, you almost kind of feel bad for Jerry because the father-in-law treats him like such a loser. Yeah. But then you can't really feel sorry for him because he's just like a terrible person. Like, why would you do that? And the thing about
Maybe
it,
he was going to buy that lot. Remember?
Well, yeah, I know.
Maybe that's what he was going to do with the money. Buy that lot, and that was going to be his future.
Right. He was going to make this big investment,
Right.
and that's why, like, he introduced it to them because he needed the money,
Right.
like, you know,
And they
from the
said
dad
no.
and Stan. Well, no, they thought it was a good deal, but they just said, oh, we'll just give you a finder's fee because we're going to take it over.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember? And then
Yeah.
he was just like, oh, shit. Then he had to go ahead with the kidnapping thing.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it was that he was going to go ahead with the kidnapping thing, and then, like, the dad and Stan, the accountant, they were like, oh, no, this is a good deal. So he's like, oh, good, maybe I don't have to do the kidnapping thing. But he couldn't call off the kidnapping because he didn't have the dude's phone number.
Yeah.
Because remember, he got it through Shep, who was like a mechanic at the car lot, and like he couldn't get hold of him, so he couldn't like get hold of him to tell him not to do it. So they just went ahead and did it anyway.
Shep, the mechanic at the car lot, is a played by a Native American guy who looks familiar as shit. I think that was he in Dances with Wolves.
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie.
Somebody in the
years.
comment section might know. But that guy looks real familiar. Either that or he was in one of those war movies, like Code Talkers or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, or something like that. I think he was in a war movie where they were fighting the Japanese.
Oracle said Jerry needs the money to make himself feel less emasculated by his father-in-law. Yeah, there you go.
Probably, yeah.
And then Ben said investments is likely where the money went. Stupid people can lose any amount to pyramid schemes. Too good to be true opportunities. Yeah, that maybe was what they were implying because he seemed like he was always kind of trying to come up with some money-making scheme. So I guess you could be led to believe that sometime in the past he had invested some money in a scheme and lost it all because it was stupid. Gramther said the father-in-law had no time for Jerry. He knew Jerry was all clown shoes. Yeah. And Holy Parish of Doom says the Wade character is a real douche too, though. He is, I agree. And the fact of the matter is that I'm not saying that obviously the plot would have gone sideways anyway because it started going sideways even before Wade got involved. But Wade's insistence on taking the money to the kidnappers himself... obviously it got him killed, might have probably also got his daughter killed as well, but, you know, so that, because he was just, well, it's my money, so I'm gonna, even though, you know, Jerry was telling him, no, it's my deal, you know, and he just had to, like, take over.
Yeah,
so,
he got his daughter killed.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, I don't know, the daughter might have killed,
the daughter
got
would have been
killed
killed anyway before the money showed up, remember?
Well, yeah, well...
Because when they found him, because when the Steve Buscemi guy went back to the hideout, she was already dead, wasn't she?
Yeah. Garrett just shot her because she was making noise.
So he would have just showed up with the money. So
Yeah.
like, here's the money, you know what I mean? Oh, she's dead.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have mattered.
It's kind of interesting, too, the way... And I was reading an interview with the Coens about this movie specifically, and they kind of went into, like, a lot of depth about what what they were thinking when they were writing it. And I thought it was an interesting decision to make Jean. She's not really in it much. She's only like, that's the wife that gets kidnapped. And she's only in a couple scenes at the beginning, like interacting with the kid and with her dad and everything like that. But then once she gets kidnapped, she becomes sort of like depersonalized, like almost an object. And they said they kind of did that deliberately. I guess because I think it was mirroring Jerry's disregard of her safety.
Well, she also became faceless. You never saw her face. She was always in that bag.
Interestingly, because that wasn't the same actress anymore.
Right? Yeah.
That was actually, I think that was
just
the stunt person.
And they'd laugh at her.
Yeah.
Because she was losing it.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the thing. I think that they did that. They didn't say this outright, but I think they were implying pretty strongly that they did that deliberately, like I said, to sort of mirror Jerry's attitude toward her. Because he obviously didn't give a shit. To him, she was just like a means to an end.
Right.
And another thing too was that he also didn't really seem to give much of a shit about his son because when they said like after she gets kidnapped and everything and he's talking to Wade or Stan, like the accountant, and they're like, oh well, how's Scotty gonna take this? And he's taken aback, like he forgot about his son for a second. Oh yeah, I guess I gotta tell her that his mom got kidnapped.
Her name was Jean. Is that
like it didn't even occur to him.
Jean also got herself killed too, though, because she didn't even talk to the guys who abducted her. She just screamed the whole time. And she basically kind of like personified herself. That dude probably would have been less apt to kill her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that guy was a psycho, and
he was a psycho.
He just killed people just fucking randomly that he didn't even need to.
Yeah, but I think it would have been. Well, it's just a fictional story anyway.
Yeah.
But you know,
Oracle said his wife was essentially dead once she was taken from the house. In my opinion, yeah. And also said Jean has a lot of frantic energy for all of her scenes. She's like a jittery toy.
Yeah.
And also, I think Jean was desperate to have Jerry pay attention to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even in the scenes before she gets kidnapped, she's always, like, frenetically, like, doing something. Like, she's always, like, chopping vegetables really fast or, like, stirring something really fast. Or she's always, like...
super nervous.
Yeah, she's always, like, super nervous like that. And I honestly kind of love, too, like, the scene where she's just, like, sitting in the living room, like, when the kidnappers come. And Steve Buscemi just, like... rolls on up to the house in broad fucking daylight,
just looks
looking through the window.
She's just watching,
and she's just watching it, like just completely shocked.
Wait, she's like, "Who's this dude?" And he just busts through the damn glass and comes right at her. Yeah.
Oh my god!
No survival, no self-preservation instincts.
Well, I mean, she did have the wherewithal to like run up the stairs, and then she faked them out by like opening the bathroom window like she had jumped out, which did actually work, and then she hid in the tub. Yeah. So she did actually kind of have some kind of thing, but yeah, after that she just she ran out the shit and then like fell down the stairs.
I guess she just couldn't believe it. But the dude had a fucking bag on his head.
Yeah.
I'd have gone straight for the guns. Like, what the fuck is... No! You know that's a bad guy. Anybody covering their face.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
And especially, like, if they come up on your house in the broad daylight, they clearly do not give a fuck.
Like Jason? Oh, you're the bad guy, bro.
Yeah,
I saw that movie. I grew up
You're getting taken out no matter what.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're gonna fucking go down in a hail of gunfire, bitch.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was a really interesting decision, like what they did with her character. I don't like blame her for being like that though, because like I said, she was completely shocked, I guess, which you would be, I suppose, if you're just sitting there in the middle of the fucking afternoon and like some dude in the mask. So, I mean, but yeah, but you know, she just kind of gets randomly shot at the end. You don't even know she's dead until later, because Buscemi comes in after he got shot in the face with the money. And she's just laying on the floor, and you can't really see her head or anything like that, so you don't know if she's dead or not. And he's just like, what? And he's just like, oh, what happened to her? And it's like, oh, she wouldn't be quiet, or she wouldn't shut up. But I didn't know if he just like knocked her out, or if he killed her. But then like later on, when Marge is like talking to him, like you're led to assume that she got killed. But you know, so yeah, this was really fun movie to revisit, because like I said, I'm pretty sure I saw this in the theater when it first came out, and then I saw it again on cable, or I rented it or something like that. So I've seen it a couple of times since then, and I don't know. I mean, it's definitely one of their best movies, I think. And I mean, a lot of their movies are great, but I had forgotten how fucking funny this movie was.
It's a good movie.
It's like I said, it's a very specific kind of humor, and admittedly, it's probably much funnier if you're actually from the Midwest and like recognize a lot of the stuff. But I know enough about the Midwest and about that culture that I can kind of see where they're coming from with it. So it is like very funny to me. And like I said, the funniest thing to me is just the whole juxtaposition of everyone being like super over the top, polite and nice, and then like having to deal with this with this fucking horrible scheme gone wrong. I don't know why, but like the funniest scene to me, and the one that stuck with, other than the wood chipper scene, which is iconic, for some reason the scene that stayed with me the longest, that was one of the main ones that I remembered, was when Marge, who actually doesn't show up in the movie until half an hour in, and she's like kind of I don't know, she's kind of the main character, because Jerry's kind of the main character too. But she doesn't actually even show up until, like, not halfway through the movie, but, like, half an hour into the movie. Where she kind of gets to the first crime scene, like, where the state trooper and the two witnesses got shot. And she's, like, looking at the crime scene and, like, you know, sorting everything out, like, correctly, as it turns out. Like, she's like, oh, yeah, this is what happened. And that happens, like, she, you know, susses it all out. And she kind of, like, bends over, and her partner's like, oh, you see something down there, Marge? She's like, no, I just think I'm gonna barf. Because she's pregnant. And then she just, like, sits there, just like, well, that passed. Now I'm hungry again. And there's, like, such great scenes, like, throughout where her and her husband are, like, going to the all-you-can-eat smorgasbord. Like, just fucking plates full of food. And they're just eating them, and it's just, I don't know. Like, little details like that, like, character stuff is, like, really funny to me. And then there's that whole little subplot with that guy that I guess she went to school with, whose name is Mike, and then she meets up with him in the restaurant, like when she goes to the Twin Cities. And he tells her this sob story about how he had a wife, he married this girl that they both knew in high school, and then like she died of leukemia and all this other kind of stuff, and she's like, oh no, that's terrible, and all this other stuff. But then she finds out the next day that he made that all up. And a lot of I kind of feel like a lot of people were like, why was that scene even in there, because it doesn't have anything to do with the main plot, which it kind of doesn't. But I think why that scene is in there is because I think that was the point that Marge realized that you can't take everyone at face value. I think that's what, because she had already interviewed Jerry once at this point, and I don't think she was initially suspicious of him. But after she met up with this Mike guy and he told her this story, and she believed it at first, but then found out later, it's like, no, that chick's still alive. It's like, he wasn't married to her. Like, what the fuck is he has mental problems. And so I think that made her realize, oh, well, maybe I should go back and talk to Jerry again, because she goes back and like interviews Jerry again, like after that incident. So I think that was kind of like an inciting incident that didn't have anything to do with the main plot, but that kind of sort of like just informed her character a little bit, that it's like, oh, well, you can't take everything everybody says like at face value. So I should go check that out again. And that's kind of when she cracks the case, when she goes back and interviews Jerry a second time, because he gets like super nervous, and then like he fucking runs out of the interview and like takes off and like does some suspicious shit, and that's when she kind of gets to the bottom of the whole thing. Yeah, Oracle said it's very important. Mike is a liar like Jerry is a liar. Yeah, exactly. I kind of feel like that's why that scene was in there, even though it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with the main plot. Like, it seems like it's just a digression. But let me see. Prowler needs a jump on. Yeah, that's what they're all saying. Yeah, Marge is the good guy of the story. She definitely is. And I think she's really, I think, one of the best characters that the Coen brothers have ever put in a movie. And that part was written specifically for her, because I don't know if you know, but she's married to Joel Coen. They actually met on Blood Simple, and which was their first movie because she was in that too. She was also great in that.
It's another super believable heroine story of a female hero that wins. It's a more comedic adaptation of what you would see with like Ellen Ripley from Aliens. It's on that par. Very believable character.
Yeah. And she's like I said, I like that she's not overtly a badass. She's just like a regular person, like doing her job. But, you know, honesty is very important to her. Integrity is very important to her.
Working class.
Yeah, she's just like a decent person, and she's going to get the job done. And she's not going to complain about it. Like, I like, too, that she's very pregnant in the movie. She's 7 months pregnant, I guess, because at the end they say that it's 2 more months before the baby's born. But she doesn't really ask anybody to, like, make accommodations for her, or she doesn't, like, you know, she just kind of gets on with it, like you would do. She just gets up and does her job. She's always kind of, like, in a good mood. She has, like, a sunny disposition.
She almost throws up and goes, well, that passed.
Yeah, now I'm hungry again. It's like, that just, because she just, like, eats and eats, like, through the whole movie. It's just, like, super, super funny. But, I don't know, just, like, I just find her character, like, really, really charming. And like I said, I kind of feel like a lot of people felt the same way, which, you know, like I said, that's why she got the Oscar, and well deserved. I love Frances McDormand.
Holy Parish of Doom said, I guess he agrees with me about her character, and that she wasn't machoized either. She was female.
Yeah,
feminine, just like Ripley was. Ripley wasn't machoized. She was just a woman, competent woman.
Yeah, which I like that kind of thing, where she's just, like I said, it's just somebody doing their job.
Yeah,
it's not, you know, she's
not
just
a
like
superhuman or superhero, you know, type thing.
Yeah, I mean, I get where that comes from, but it's good to just kind of just show a character that's just a regular ass person, just doing a regular ass job, but still like
does cool shit.
But still does cool shit, and like I said, it's not over the top, it's not unbelievable, she's not doing anything unbelievable. She said too that they had that pregnant belly that they put on her. She said it was a whole onesie thing. It had boobs on it and everything. And she's like, the belly part was filled with bird seed, like, so it would be heavy, so she would like move more like a pregnant woman. And they said that the boobs had silicone in them, and she left them in her trailer overnight in Minnesota, and the silicone froze and like exploded. Oh, shit. Like while they were shooting a scene. They said that on the fucking on the documentary, and I'm just like, oh, so I guess they had to remake it, like exploding boobies, you know what I mean? Because there's a funny video on YouTube called, I think it's called like 10 Things You Probably Didn't Know About Fargo or something like that, and he talked about that on there, but I thought that was like super funny. Yeah, Oracle said, considering Marge is a small-town LEO, she's a great detective. Yeah, she's kind of, and somebody said earlier that she's kind of like the female Columbo.
Yeah.
Because I like that scene where she comes at the beginning and she's able to correctly assess like what happened at the scene just from like the footprints and the way that the cars are and everything like that. And she's right about everything. And then like her partner, you know, he's saying, oh, you know, they said they saw a tan Cutlass Ciarra and it's like had DLR on the plate. And it's like, so we're doing this APB on cars that have DLR, whatever the plate. And she's like, I'm not sure I 100% agree with your police work there, Lou. She's like, that's dealer plates. DLR is dealer plates. And he's just like, oh, geez. You know what I mean? But she's really nice about it, like when she like corrects him. So I thought that was like super funny too. But like I said, there's just little touches like that really inform all the characters that I think make this movie so good. Yeah, that's what Oracle said. And she's a good boss. She doesn't make her partner feel bad about the DLR mistake. Yeah, she doesn't yell at him, nothing like that. And then she just kind of makes a little joke about it, like, oh, you know, shit happens. She handled that so well. Yeah. And like I said, I think that's why she's such a great character. And there's not really a lot of characters like her in cinema, I feel like. You know, she was very original. But yeah, so are you ready to wrap it up?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad you like this movie too.
I like the movie.
Because it was a great
suggestion.
I really like this movie a
great
lot.
one,
And I had been wanting to do it for a while, so I'm really glad that Xánada sent it to us. Yeah, and like I said, we'll probably do some more Coen Brothers. I did Blood Simple, and we've done No Country for Old Men, and we've done some other ones.
We did Lebowski.
Big Lebowski, yeah. I'd like to do Barton Fink, although you might not like that because that one's a little bit weird. But it's kind of surreal. And we haven't done, like, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or...
Oh, it's a great movie. I like that one.
Yeah.
He did that too?
Yeah. That's them.
It's Odysseus.
Miller's Crossing. Yeah.
It's Odysseus. Told in the South.
Yeah. That would be a good one to do, actually.
Yeah, we should do it, yeah.
Because I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah.
The Cyclops.
Do Hail Caesar. Yeah, maybe we could. Or The Man Who Wasn't There. That was a good movie, too. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I remember liking that one a lot. But yeah, they've made a shit ton of good movies. But yeah, so I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you again very much, Xánada, for sending us the movie. So tomorrow is Monday, and that means it's a Haunting Mondays. We're going to do, I think, the only one from season 3 that we haven't done yet, which is Hidden Terror.
I don't remember that one.
We just watched it recently. You'll know which one it is when I. Right. It's the one with the guy that buys the house, and then his friend goes there to paint, and she gets all depressed and everything.
Oh yeah.
Which I think we watched a couple months ago. We were going to do it for the show, but then we ended up doing another episode because somebody told me, it's like, oh, you didn't do Hidden Terror yet. And I was like, yeah, we did. And then I looked and I was like, oh, no, I guess we didn't. All right, so that's the one we're going to do. So we're going to do Hidden Terror tomorrow. Ben said Miller's Crossing is the best gangster film of all time. Yeah, we should probably do that one. Like I said, they made so many fucking good movies, man. And it's like, we really need to get to there's a lot of movies we need to get to. You know what I mean? But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this discussion about Fargo, and hopefully you can join us for Haunting Mondays. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about Hidden Terror, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow evening. Bye.